You're embarrassing me. Just leave.
I understand.
Congratulations, Clara.
Thank you. It's time to move forward.
Michael Reeves didn't just ask his wife to leave his birthday dinner. He stood beside Vanessa, the woman he had been hiding for months, and told Clara she was embarrassing him in front of people who mattered. To him, she was the quiet wife, with no status, no money, and no power. But the staff froze because they knew the private room, the wine, and the final bill all answered to her. Welcome to today's story. If you enjoy emotional drama and shocking twists, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more unforgettable stories. And before we begin, let me know where you're watching from in the comments. 3 months earlier, Clara Reeves had still believed silence could save a marriage. She stood in the kitchen of their townhouse at 6:30 in the morning, buttoning the sleeve of Michael's white dress shirt while he scrolled through emails on his phone. He did not thank her. He barely looked up. He only lifted his arm when she needed space to smooth the cuff. "You're sure the birthday reservation is handled?" he asked. "It's handled," Clara said. Michael gave a short laugh. "Good. I can't have anything cheap or awkward this year. 40 matters. There'll be people there who can actually help my career." Clara's fingers paused for half a second, then continued. She had learned not to react to words that were meant to remind her of her place. Michael liked the idea of being married to a calm woman, a woman who did not compete with him, a woman who made his life easier without asking for credit. He called it peace. Clara had once called it love. Their home looked comfortable, but not rich. Clara had chosen simple furniture, warm lamps, clean counters, and nothing that begged to be admired. Michael hated that about her. He wanted bigger rooms, newer cars, louder proof that he was becoming important. Clara had the money to buy all of it. She simply never believed a marriage should need decoration to feel valuable. To Michael, her modesty looked like limitation. He slid his phone into his jacket pocket and checked himself in the microwave reflection. "Vanessa might stop by the dinner," he said casually. "She helped connect me with the venue." Clara looked down at the button she had just fastened. Vanessa Vale, Michael's co-worker. Polished, ambitious, always laughing too brightly when Clara was near. Michael had mentioned her more often lately. Vanessa thought this. Vanessa said that. Vanessa knew someone. Vanessa understood the kind of rooms Michael wanted to enter. "That's fine," Clara said. Michael finally looked at her, but not kindly. "Try to be normal that night, okay? Don't hover. Don't act like you're managing everything." Clara almost smiled at that. Managing everything was exactly what she had done for years. His calendar, his dinners, his mother's appointments when Elaine forgot them, the dry cleaning, the bills he assumed paid themselves the connections he thought appeared because he was impressive. Even the birthday dinner he was so proud of had passed through her hands long before Vanessa knew the restaurant existed. But Michael did not know that. He did not know Clara Reeves was still Clara Calloway in every business document that mattered. He did not know Calloway House Group, the boutique hospitality company expanding across 3 states, belonged to her. He did not know the restaurant he wanted so badly was not a favor from Vanessa, but one of Clara's flagship properties. And he did not know because he had never asked. After he left, Clara rinsed his coffee cup and stood alone in the quiet kitchen. Her phone buzzed on the counter. The screen showed a message from Grant Ellison, general manager of Calloway House. "Final private dining contract is ready for your approval, Ms. Calloway. Also, Michael Reeves's company requested partnership materials through Vanessa Vale." Clara read the message twice. Her thumb hovered over the screen. She could have canceled the reservation. She could have called Michael at work and told him the truth in one clean sentence. She could have ended the performance before it had the chance to hurt her. Instead, she locked her phone and placed it face down. Not because she was afraid, Because if her marriage was already becoming a stage, she needed to know who Michael would choose when he believed she had nothing. That evening, Elaine Reeves called while Clara was folding Michael's suit jacket over a chair. "I hope you're not making this birthday about yourself," Elaine said, without greeting. "Michael needs to be surrounded by the right people. He's outgrowing small things." Clara looked at the jacket in her hands. Small things. That was what they called her now. Small. Plain. Useful. Replaceable. "I understand," Clara said. Elaine sighed, satisfied by the obedience she thought she heard. "Good. Then don't embarrass him." Clara ended the call and stood very still. A minute later, her phone buzzed again. This time the message was not from Grant. It was from Mara Lewis, her attorney. "Before you approve anything connected to Michael's firm, call me. We may need to discuss the postnup." Clara did not call Mara right away. She stood in the living room with Michael's suit jacket across her arms and read the attorney's message again, slower this time. "Before you approve anything connected to Michael's firm, call me. We may need to discuss the postnup. It was a simple warning, but it made the house feel different. Not unsafe exactly, just exposed." She folded the jacket carefully and laid it over the back of the chair. Michael would never notice the care. He noticed only what was missing, what was late, what failed to serve him. That had become the rhythm of their marriage. Clara handled the details. Michael collected the credit. When something went wrong, he found her name in it. Her phone buzzed again before she could move. This time it was Grant Ellison. "Ms. Calloway, the wine distributor, needs your final approval by noon. Also, Ms. Vale requested permission to add an outside floral vendor under Mr. Reeves's event file. I have not approved it." Clara looked toward the hallway, where Michael's framed awards hung in a neat row. Sales achievements, regional recognition, a leadership certificate from a weekend program he had treated like a Harvard degree. Her own accomplishments were not on the walls, not because they were smaller, because she had never wanted her home to become a showroom. She typed back, "Do not approve any outside vendor changes without my written authorization." Then she added, "Keep my name off the guest-facing documents." Grant responded within seconds. "Of course, Miss Calloway." That was the difference between the two worlds she lived in. At Calloway House Group, people waited for her decision. At home, Michael acted as if she needed permission to be useful. The company had begun as a small catering operation 8 years earlier, long before Michael decided success had a certain look. Clara had built it under her maiden name, because Calloway had been the name on her first business license, her first lease, her first loan application, and the first contract anyone had trusted her to sign. She kept Reeves for her marriage, and Calloway for the work. At first, it had been practical. Later, it became protection. People behaved differently around wealth. Clara had learned that before Michael, before the townhouse, before the polite dinners where Elaine inspected her dress like a receipt. Some people became warm when they thought money was nearby. Others became resentful. A few became dangerous in quiet ways. So Clara let the world around Michael believe she did freelance operations work for small restaurants. It was close enough to sound true and small enough that he never asked follow-up questions. Michael liked small answers from her. That afternoon he called while she was reviewing vendor notes at the dining table. His voice came through sharp and distracted. "Did you send my blue tie to the cleaners?" "It's in the second drawer," Clara said. "You wore the gray one last week." A pause. "Right. Also, don't make plans Friday. Vanessa thinks we should stop by the venue before the birthday. She wants to make sure the room photographs well." Clara placed her pen down. "Vanessa wants to inspect the room. She knows these things," Michael said. "Branding, optics, atmosphere. You know the kind of stuff that matters at a professional level." Clara's eyes moved to the folder open in front of her. The folder contained the final layout for the private dining room, including sight lines for photography spacing between tables, lighting temperatures, and a revised service path that would keep staff movement smooth without disrupting speeches. Clara had approved every detail 2 days earlier. "I understand atmosphere," she said quietly. Michael laughed once, not cruelly enough to sound like an attack, but not kindly enough to be harmless. "I know you like organizing things, Clara. That's not what I mean." There it was. The soft cut. Not enough to bleed in front of anyone. Enough to remember later. She did not defend herself. She had spent too many years trying to explain competence to a man who only respected it when it came from strangers. "What time Friday?" she asked. "I'll let you know." And Clara, yes. Try not to be weird with Vanessa. She's important to this deal. The line went dead before Clara could answer. She sat with the silence for a moment. Then she opened her laptop and logged into the secure owner portal for Callaway House Group. The dashboard loaded across the screen. Revenue reports, expansion projections, pending corporate partnership requests. At the top of the list was the inquiry from Michael's firm, Reeves Landon Marketing, submitted through Vanessa Vale. Clara clicked it open. The proposal was polished but thin. It praised Callaway House Group as an emerging luxury hospitality brand and suggested a strategic campaign that would elevate national visibility. Michael's name appeared on the internal contact line. Vanessa's name appeared under client relationship lead. Clara read the document without blinking. Michael needed this. Not casually. Not as a nice opportunity. He needed it badly enough to let Vanessa walk into his marriage and rearrange the furniture of his life. He needed it badly enough to believe Clara's birthday reservation was just another step toward the version of himself he wanted other people to admire. At 5:30, the front door opened. Michael came in with his phone already pressed to his ear. He did not greet Clara. He tossed his keys into the bowl by the door and walked past her into the kitchen. "No, she won't be a problem," he said into the phone, his voice lower than usual. "I'll handle it." Clara's hand stilled on the laptop lid. Michael turned and saw her watching. His expression changed for half a second, then smoothed. "I have to go," he said into the phone and ended the call. "Work." Clara closed the laptop before he could see the screen. Of course, his eyes dropped to the computer, then back to her face. "What are you working on?" "Old work things," she said. He lost interest immediately. That hurt more than suspicion would have. Suspicion meant he thought there might be something worth discovering. Michael did not suspect, because in his mind there was nothing in Clara's life large enough to hide. He opened the refrigerator and frowned at what was inside. "We should order in. Something decent. I'm tired of pretending this simple life thing is charming." Clara stood and carried her laptop to the hallway cabinet, where she kept a locked leather work bag. She slid the computer inside, zipped it, and turned the small brass lock until it clicked. Michael did not notice that either. But as she walked back toward the kitchen, her phone lit up on the table. The subject line was from Grant. "Reeves Landon Partnership Review scheduled. Owner approval required before next phase." The email stayed on Clara's phone long after the screen dimmed. "Reeves Landon Partnership Review scheduled. Owner approval required before next phase." She did not open it at the table. Michael was still in the kitchen pulling takeout menus from the drawer as if dinner were another problem she had failed to solve. "Thai or steakhouse?" he asked without looking at her. "Either is fine." "That's the problem, Clara." He tossed one menu onto the counter. "Everything is fine with you. You never have a real opinion until it's too late to matter." She looked at him then. Not sharply. Not with anger. Just long enough for him to notice she had heard him clearly. Michael shifted, uncomfortable for half a second, then covered it with irritation. "Don't look at me like that. I've had a long day." "So have I," she said. He laughed under his breath. Doing what answering emails from small restaurants, Clara felt the sentence land, but she did not let it move her face. That was one thing years of being underestimated had given her. Control. Not the cold kind, the necessary kind. "I'm going upstairs," she said. "Fine. I'll order." She picked up her phone and walked to the small office at the back of the house, the one Michael called her hobby room. He had once joked in front of his mother that Clara needed a place to feel productive. Elaine had laughed. Clara had smiled because the office held more real authority than any room Michael had ever stood in. She locked the door, opened her laptop, and pulled up the Reeves-Landon file. The partnership request was bigger than she had expected. Michael's firm was not asking for a simple campaign. They wanted a 6-month national visibility package tied to Callaway House Group's expansion into Chicago, Atlanta, and Denver. They wanted access to client data brand assets, media strategy launch events, and preferred vendor introductions. In the right hands, it could be valuable. In careless hands, it could expose the company to embarrassment. And Michael's name sat near the top: Senior Strategy Contact Michael Reeves. Below it, Vanessa Vale had written the relationship summary. Her language was polished, but Clara could feel the fingerprints beneath it. Vanessa presented herself as the person who had cultivated warm access to Callaway House through private hospitality channels. She made it sound as if the birthday dinner were part of a relationship she had built. Clara leaned back slowly. So that was the story Michael believed. Vanessa had given him the venue. Vanessa had opened the door. Vanessa was the woman who understood his future. Clara opened the attached budget sheet. The numbers were aggressive. Too aggressive for a firm that had lost 2 major clients in the past year. Reeves-Landon needed this deal to look stronger than it was. Michael needed it to look like proof he belonged in better rooms. Her phone rang before she could finish the second attachment. "Grant," she answered quietly. "Tell me." "I'm sorry to call this late, Ms. Callaway," he said. But Vanessa Vale contacted the restaurant directly. She said she had permission from Mr. Reeves to adjust the seating plan for the birthday dinner. Clara's eyes narrowed slightly. "What adjustment she wants the head table changed?" "She asked that your seat be moved to the side end near the service entrance. She also requested a place card for herself beside Mr. Reeves." For a moment, Clara heard only the soft hum of the office vent. Grant did not speak again. He was too professional to offer outrage, but she could hear discomfort in his silence. He knew. Maybe not everything, but enough to understand that something about the request was wrong. "Did she give a reason?" Clara asked. "She said the arrangement should reflect Mr. Reeves's professional priorities." Clara closed her eyes once. Professional priorities. That was a clean phrase for an ugly thing. Michael did not want his wife beside him at his own birthday. He wanted the woman he was showing off, and he wanted Clara close enough to serve the image, but far enough not to be seen as part of it. "Leave the original seating plan unchanged for now," Clara said. "Understood. And Grant, yes ma'am, document the request. Time, date, caller, exact wording if you have it." A pause. Already done. That quiet loyalty touched her more than she expected. "Thank you." After the call ended, Clara opened a blank folder on her encrypted drive and named it Reeves-Landon Review. Then she created a second folder inside it. Personal conduct. She saved the partnership proposal. She saved Vanessa's seating request summary when Grant forwarded it. She saved the outside vendor request from earlier that day, not because she had decided what to do yet, because facts mattered when feelings were being dismissed. Downstairs, Michael's voice drifted up through the floor. He was on the phone again. His tone was warmer now, lighter than it had been with Clara all week. "No, she won't care," he said. "She never pushes back. That's the one good thing about Clara." Clara's hand stilled on the mouse. Michael laughed softly. Then he added, After the birthday, I'll deal with the marriage situation. I just need the Callaway deal moving first. Clara did not move for several seconds. The office felt smaller around her, but her mind became strangely clear. The marriage situation. Not his wife. Not their life. A situation. She saved one final note to the folder, then opened Mara Lewis's contact and pressed call. The attorney answered on the third ring, her voice calm and alert. Clara looked at the closed office door and lowered her voice. I need to know exactly what Michael signed in the postnup, she said. And I need to know what happens if he's using our marriage to get close to my company. Mara did not answer like a friend. She answered like an attorney who had heard something in Clara's voice and understood that emotion could wait. Start from the beginning, Mara said. Clara sat at her desk with the office door locked and the laptop open in front of her. Downstairs, Michael's footsteps moved across the kitchen, then faded toward the living room. He had no idea his wife was 2 floors above him, asking about legal protections he had once laughed at before signing. There's a partnership request from Michael's firm, Clara said. Reeves Landon wants access to Callaway House Group's expansion campaign. Michael is listed as a senior strategy contact. Vanessa Vale is listed as the relationship lead. Mara was quiet for a beat. Vanessa Vale. Is that the coworker you mentioned before? Yes. And Michael knows Callaway House is yours? No, Clara said. He still thinks I do small operations consulting. Mara exhaled softly, not in judgment, but in calculation. All right, do not correct him tonight. Not casually, not emotionally. If there's a business conflict, we need clean records. Clara looked at the folders she had created on her drive. Grant already documented Vanessa trying to change the birthday seating plan. She wanted my seat moved away from Michael, and hers placed beside him. The silence that followed was colder. Mara said carefully. That is personal conduct, but if it connects to a business proposal, we preserve it. Forward me everything. Contract request, seating request, vendor, changes all communications involving Vanessa and Michael's firm. Clara did not move for a second. Hearing it said plainly made the situation feel less like heartbreak and more like evidence. She hated that. She hated that her marriage had become something to sort, label, and forward. What about the postnup, she asked. Mara's voice shifted into the steady tone Clara had heard in conference rooms. The postnuptial agreement protects your premarital ownership interest in Callaway House Group and any appreciation tied to separate business activity. It also has a confidentiality section, a conflict of interest section, and a clause addressing misuse of marital funds for non-marital relationships. Enforcement can depend on state law and the facts, but the document gives us leverage. Michael's laugh rose faintly from downstairs. He was watching something on his phone. Clara stared at the closed door. He called me a situation. Mara did not respond immediately. He said after the birthday he would deal with the marriage situation, Clara continued. He thought I couldn't hear him. Mara's voice softened, but only slightly. Did you record it? No. Then write it down now. Date, time, exact words, as close as you remember. Don't embellish. Don't interpret. Just facts. Clara opened a new document and typed, while Mara stayed on the line. Her fingers were steady, but her chest felt tight in that private place where disappointment settled when it had nowhere else to go. For years, Clara had told herself Michael was stressed, ambitious, restless, shaped by Elaine's constant hunger for status. She had excused the small cuts, the jokes, the way he introduced her as if she were an accessory to his life. She had thought patience was a form of love. Now she wondered when patience had turned into permission. Mara continued. I also want you to check the joint account. Quietly. If he's preparing to leave after the birthday, there may be transfers. Clara's stomach sank, but she did not argue. She logged into the joint checking account while Mara waited. At first, the numbers looked normal. Mortgage, utilities, grocery charges, Michael's dry cleaning, a restaurant charge she did not recognize. Then she saw the transfers, 3 of them all in the last 6 weeks, small enough to hide inside the noise of ordinary life. $700, $900, $1,200. Each one went to an external account ending in 4418. Clara wrote it down. "Mara," she said, "I'm here. He's moving money. How much? $2,800 total so far. Save the statements. Download the PDFs. Do not confront him yet." Clara did as she was told. Her breath had gone shallow, but her hands kept working. That was the strange mercy of procedure. It gave pain something to do. Then she checked the credit card. The first unfamiliar charge was from a boutique hotel near the river. One night. The date matched a Thursday. Michael had claimed he was attending an overnight strategy retreat. The second charge was from a jewelry store. The amount was just under $600. The third was from an apartment application service. Clara stopped moving. The cursor blinked beside the charge patient and indifferent. "Mara," she said again. This time her voice was different. "What did you find? An apartment application?" Mara let out a slow breath. "Download it." Clara saved the statement to the folder. Then, after a moment, she opened the old tablet in the lower desk drawer. She had not used it in months. It had once been synced to Michael's messages when they shared travel plans and restaurant reservations. She expected it to be logged out. It was not. The message thread with Vanessa was near the top. Clara did not open it immediately. She stared at the name, feeling the last fragile piece of denial loosen inside her. There was a difference between suspecting betrayal and seeing it waiting under glass. Mara seemed to understand the silence. "Clara, I found their messages. Do not respond from the device. Do not delete anything. Screenshot relevant messages and send them to me securely." Clara opened the thread. The most recent message from Vanessa had been sent 20 minutes earlier. "After your birthday, stop delaying. I'm tired of playing second place to a woman who doesn't even know what she's sitting on." Michael had replied almost instantly. "Don't worry. Clara has no idea. After Friday, I'll handle her. Then we get the deal and the life we talked about." Clara read the words once. Then again. She took the screenshot with hands that did not shake until after the image saved. Clara did not sleep that night. She stayed in her office until after midnight, organizing every document Mara had requested. Bank statements went into one folder, screenshots into another. The partnership proposal, Vanessa's seating request, and Grant's written notes each received their own file. She named everything by date, then backed the folder up to an encrypted cloud account Michael had never seen. She was not preparing for a fight. She was preparing for the truth. The next morning, Mara's office occupied the top floor of a brick building overlooking downtown. It was quiet, orderly, and free from unnecessary decoration. Clara appreciated that. There was comfort in places where everything existed for a reason. Mara greeted her with a firm handshake and a thick blue binder already waiting on the conference table. "I reviewed everything you sent," she said. "You were thorough. I've had practice organizing difficult things." Mara gave her a sympathetic look but stayed focused. "Let's talk about the agreement Michael signed 3 years ago." She opened the binder to a tab marked Postnuptial Agreement. "You remember why we drafted this?" Clara nodded slowly. "Your investors insisted ownership of Callaway House Group remain clearly separated from marital property before the expansion. You resisted at first. I thought it would make the marriage feel transactional." and Michael Clara let out a quiet breath. He barely read it. Mara turned several pages until she reached Michael's signature. He skimmed it, Clara said. He joked that my little hospitality business wasn't worth hiring lawyers over. He signed voluntarily, Mara replied. We documented independent counsel being offered. He declined. That matters. She slid the agreement across the table. Your ownership interest in Callaway House Group remains separate property. Future appreciation connected to the company also remains protected under this agreement. That's important. Clara read the familiar paragraphs again. Words she had once hoped would never matter now carried the weight of her future. Mara continued. The agreement also addresses misuse of marital assets. She tapped another highlighted section. If marital funds are intentionally diverted to support a relationship outside the marriage, that conduct may become relevant during property division depending on the applicable law and the evidence. This clause doesn't guarantee an outcome by itself, but it strengthens your position if the facts support it. Clara thought about the apartment application, the hotel, the jewelry, Vanessa sitting beside Michael at his birthday. He's been moving money. I know, Mara said, and we're documenting every dollar. Silence settled between them. Finally, Mara leaned back. Clara, I need to ask you something difficult. All right? Do you still believe this marriage can be saved? Clara did not answer immediately. She remembered Michael laughing at dinner parties while introducing her as someone who liked organizing spreadsheets. She remembered Elaine telling relatives that Clara had been lucky to marry an ambitious man. She remembered every small moment she had accepted, because none of them alone seemed serious enough to destroy a marriage. Now they stood together. One long pattern. I don't know if the marriage exists anymore, she admitted quietly. Mara nodded. That uncertainty is exactly why you shouldn't make emotional decisions this week. She closed the binder. The birthday dinner still happens. Clara looked up. You want me to go? Yes. Mara's voice remained calm. If Michael behaves respectfully, we continue documenting. If he humiliates you publicly, don't argue. That won't be easy. I know. Mara folded her hands. But people reveal themselves when they believe they've already won. Clara lowered her eyes. You think he's going to choose Vanessa? I think he's already choosing her, Mara replied. The birthday simply gives him an audience. The words hurt because they sounded true. Before leaving, Clara stopped by Callaway House's flagship property downtown. She entered through the employee entrance instead of the front lobby. No one announced her arrival. They never needed to. Grant met her near the private dining suite carrying a leather portfolio. The menu revisions are finished, he said. They walked through the room together. Every detail reflected Clara's standards. Warm lighting, balanced table spacing, fresh flowers arranged without overwhelming conversation. The wine list had been adjusted for Michael's guests. Even the background music had been curated to encourage conversation rather than compete with it. Grant handed her the final seating chart. Everything follows your original approval. Clara studied it. Her place remained beside Michael. Vanessa's name appeared 3 seats away under the designation business guest. Exactly as it should. No further changes, Clara said. Grant hesitated. There have been additional requests, I know. I wanted to ask whether we should continue treating Mr. Reeves as the primary event contact. Clara thought carefully before answering. No. Grant waited. From this moment forward, Clara said all significant decisions require owner approval. Grant nodded once. I understand. He did not ask another question. As Clara prepared to leave, she paused at the doorway and looked back across the empty room. In 3 days, it would be filled with laughter, expensive wine-polished speeches, and people who believed they understood exactly who she was. Almost none of them did. Her phone vibrated. It was a message from Michael. "Friday's confirmed. Don't make this awkward. Just smile, support me, and let me enjoy one night." Clara read it without expression. Then she locked the screen and slipped the phone into her purse. Grant watched her quietly. "Mrs. Reeves," he said. She turned. "If something happens Friday, how would you like us to respond?" Clara looked once more at the dining room she had built long before Michael ever walked into it. "When the time comes," she said softly, "follow the contract exactly as it's written." Grant nodded. "I'll make sure every manager on duty understands." Friday arrived with clear skies and the kind of crisp autumn air that made the city look polished from a distance. Clara left the house before Michael. She told him she wanted extra time to help the restaurant with a few last-minute administrative details. He barely acknowledged it. "Just don't start managing people tonight," he said while adjusting his cufflinks. Vanessa already coordinated the important parts. Clara met his eyes for only a moment. "All right." He mistook calm for agreement. He always had. She reached Calloway House through the employee entrance. Grant was already waiting with the evening briefing tucked neatly inside a leather portfolio. Two department managers stood nearby, both greeting Clara with the same quiet respect they always showed when she visited. "Good afternoon, Miss Calloway," one of them said. Grant waited until they were alone before opening the portfolio. "The final guest count is 72. Security has the approved list. Every vendor is on schedule, and the contract prepared exactly as instructed." Clara reviewed the pages without rushing. The private event agreement included standard conduct clauses, vendor authority, guest safety requirements, and the owner's right to suspend services if contractual obligations were materially violated. Nothing unusual. Nothing designed for revenge. Just the same language the company used for every high-end private event. She signed the final authorization. "Thank you, Grant," said, taking the folder. "There's one more thing," Clara replied. "No one mentions my ownership tonight unless I personally authorize it." Grant nodded immediately. "Understood. And if anyone asks who approved the event you did," he answered, then caught himself. "I mean, the owner." Clara offered a faint smile. That's enough. She walked through the private dining room one last time. Every table sat exactly where she had planned it months ago. The lighting softened the walls without dimming faces. The flowers were elegant without becoming the center of attention. The wine had already reached serving temperature. This room represented years of work. Tonight, it would also hold the end of her marriage. By 6:30, the first guests began arriving. Michael entered with the confidence of someone convinced the evening belonged to him. He greeted co-workers with loud laughter, accepted compliments about the venue as though he had discovered it himself, and shook hands with clients he hoped would remember his name. Clara watched from across the room. Not hidden. Simply unnoticed. Vanessa arrived 15 minutes later, wearing a deep emerald dress and diamond earrings Clara had never seen before. Michael crossed the room almost immediately. The embrace lasted only a second. Too brief for anyone looking casually. Long enough for Clara. Vanessa smiled as though she already belonged there. "Beautiful place," she said loudly enough for nearby guests to hear. "I'm so glad I found it." Michael grinned. "You definitely did." Neither of them knew Grant had heard every word while checking the reception table. Elaine Reeves arrived shortly afterward. She kissed Michael's cheek, complimented his suit, then looked at Clara with polite disappointment. "There you are," Elaine said. "Would you make sure my tea has lemon instead of milk last time someone got it wrong?" "I'll let the server know," Clara answered. Elaine looked around the room. I still think Michael should have chosen a more exclusive place. Clara almost laughed at the irony. Instead, she said, I hope you enjoy the evening. Elaine leaned closer. And Clara, try not to hover around Michael all night. This is an important evening for his career. Across the room, Vanessa was already standing beside Michael, introducing herself to several executives from Reeves Landon. She's impressive, Elaine added quietly. She understands business. Clara followed Elaine's gaze. So it seems. The dinner service began smoothly. Every course arrived precisely on schedule. Staff moved confidently through the room. Glasses stayed full. Conversations grew louder as the evening settled into comfortable rhythm. Several employees subtly acknowledged Clara while passing. A slight nod. A respectful glance. Nothing more. Michael noticed none of it. To him, the staff simply seemed unusually well-trained. Halfway through the appetizer course, Vanessa stood beside Michael, examining the seating arrangement. I really thought they were going to put me closer, she whispered. They should have, Michael replied. Clara heard neither sentence directly. Grant did. He quietly noted the exchange before returning to the service station. Later, Michael approached Clara carrying a glass of champagne. You've been awfully quiet. I'm enjoying watching everyone. You don't need to supervise the staff. I'm not. He looked around the room. Honestly, Vanessa has better instincts for these events than you do. The words landed cleanly. Not shouted, not whispered, simply offered as fact. Clara folded her hands together. I'm glad she's been helpful. Michael frowned, almost disappointed she had not argued. You could try being happier for me. I am happy your guests are enjoying themselves. My guests, he repeated with a satisfied smile. He turned before she could answer. As he walked away, Vanessa slipped naturally into the place beside him. Neither of them realized they were standing exactly where Clara herself had approved every chair months earlier. Grant appeared quietly beside Clara. Without looking directly at her, he spoke just loudly enough for only her to hear. There's one additional issue. Clara turned slightly. Vanessa asked one of our supervisors to remove your place card before dessert. Grant handed her a folded incident note. She said Mr. Reeves wanted his wife seated somewhere less visible. Grant kept the folded incident report in his hand until Clara took it. She read the single paragraph once. At 8:14 p.m., Ms. Vanessa Vale requested that Mrs. Clara Reeves's place card be removed from the head table and relocated near the service station. Request denied pending owner authorization. The words were clinical. They carried no emotion. They did not need to. Clara folded the paper and slipped it into her purse. Thank you, she said. Grant studied her face. Would you like me to speak to the floor manager? No. The request has already been documented. I know. She looked towards the head table. Leave everything exactly as it is. Grant nodded and disappeared back into the dining room. The dinner continued as though nothing had happened. Servers cleared appetizer plates with practiced efficiency. Wine glasses were refreshed. Soft jazz drifted through the private room. Guests laughed over stories from college and old business trips. From a distance, it looked like a successful celebration. Only Clara knew how carefully every smile was beginning to crack. Michael tapped a spoon lightly against his glass. I just want to say thank you to everyone for being here. The room quieted. He looked confident, relaxed, completely at ease. This year has been huge for my career. Several co-workers applauded. Michael smiled wider. I've had amazing support from the people who actually understand where I'm trying to go. His eyes drifted toward Vanessa. Not for long. Just long enough. Vanessa smiled back before lowering her gaze with practiced modesty. Clara noticed Elaine notice it too. Elaine did not look surprised. She looked pleased. After the applause faded, guests returned to conversation. Vanessa crossed the room carrying 2 champagne flutes. "One for you," she said to Michael. "Thanks." She remained beside him instead of returning to her own seat. No one asked her to move. One executive from Reeves Landon leaned toward Michael with an approving grin. "You two make a good team." Michael laughed. "We work well together." Neither of them corrected the implication. Across the room, Clara stood beside the windows with sparkling water in her hand. She had stopped trying to convince herself these moments meant nothing. Each one mattered. Each one became another quiet decision Michael was making in front of witnesses. Elaine eventually approached her. "You're standing by yourself again. I like the view." Elaine glanced toward Michael and Vanessa. "You know how ambitious men are." Clara remained silent. "They need people who understand their goals. I've always understood Michael's goals." Elaine sighed gently. Supporting them isn't always enough. Clara turned toward her mother-in-law. "What do you mean?" Elaine hesitated only briefly. Sometimes marriages outgrow themselves. There it was. Not advice. Permission. Permission for Michael to replace the woman who had spent years building his life behind the scenes. Clara felt the hurt settle quietly instead of exploding. "I appreciate your honesty," she said. Elaine seemed almost relieved. "I only want what's best for my son." Clara nodded once. "So do I." Elaine smiled politely before walking away. She never noticed that one of the assistant managers had quietly overheard every word while adjusting a nearby floral arrangement. The dinner moved into dessert. The birthday cake rolled into the room beneath soft applause. Grant personally supervised the service. Michael stepped forward with a broad smile as cameras appeared. "All right," he said. "Let's get a few pictures." The photographer began arranging people around the cake. "Family first," he called. Clara started walking toward Michael. Before she reached him, Vanessa stepped naturally into the space beside his shoulder. Michael did not ask her to move. Instead, he looked directly at Clara. "You can stand over there." He pointed toward the far end of the group. Near the edge, almost outside the frame. The room became strangely quiet. The photographer lowered his camera slightly. One of Michael's co-workers looked down at his shoes. Grant stopped walking. Clara looked at the empty place beside her husband, the place where his wife belonged. Then she looked at Michael. "Are you sure?" she asked softly. He frowned. "Don't make this difficult." Vanessa folded her hands politely, pretending discomfort she clearly did not feel. Michael took a slow breath. "Honestly, Clara, this is supposed to be a celebration." "It is. Then stop making people uncomfortable." She searched his face. There was no hesitation, no embarrassment, only impatience, as though she had become an inconvenience standing between him and the evening he believed he deserved. She stepped back without another word. The photographer resumed arranging the group. Flash, flash, flash. Michael laughed for the camera. Vanessa stood beside him. Clara remained near the edge of the room. Grant watched everything. He quietly wrote down the time. 8:47 p.m. A few minutes later, after the cake had been served and conversations resumed, Michael crossed the room toward Clara. His champagne glass was half empty. His smile was gone. "You've been sulking all night," he said under his breath. "I've been watching." "Well, stop." She met his eyes calmly. "I don't think I've done anything wrong." Michael glanced around to make sure people were listening without appearing to listen. Then he leaned closer. If you're not going to enjoy yourself, just leave." Clara did not answer. He lowered his voice even further. "You're embarrassing me." The words hung between them. Only a few feet away, Grant looked up from the service station. Their eyes met. He had heard enough. Michael stared at Clara for a long moment, waiting for the apology he believed he deserved. It never came. Instead, she looked at him with quiet exhaustion. "I don't think I'm embarrassing you," she said. "I think you're embarrassed that I'm still here." His jaw tightened. Vanessa noticed the exchange and drifted closer with a polite smile that fooled no one. "Is everything all right?" she asked. Michael answered before Clara could. "It will be once tonight stops turning into unnecessary drama." Elaine joined them almost immediately, as if she had been expecting trouble. "Michael shouldn't have to spend his birthday managing emotions," she said. "Some people need to know when to step aside." Several nearby guests pretended not to hear, but their conversations slowed. Clara realized every word now carried witnesses. She refused to give them the scene they expected. "I came to celebrate my husband," she said evenly. "Nothing more." Vanessa folded her arms. "Then maybe celebrating means letting him enjoy the evening with the people helping build his future." The sentence landed exactly as intended. Not subtle. Not accidental. Michael said nothing to correct her. That silence hurt more than any accusation. Clara looked directly at him. "Do you agree with that?" He hesitated only a second. "I think tonight should stay positive." It was another answer without answering. Another way of standing beside Vanessa without admitting why. Clara nodded once. "I understand." Grant watched from across the room while directing the dessert service. His assistant quietly approached. "Should we intervene?" "No, but Mrs. Reeves." "Not yet." Every member of senior management had already recognized the owner's decision. Observe, document, do not interfere unless instructed. At another table, two executives from Michael's company exchanged uneasy looks. One whispered, "I thought that was his wife." The other shrugged. "Apparently it's complicated." Complicated. That word followed public betrayals because people preferred it to honesty. Michael lifted his glass again. "I'd like to make one final toast." Guests politely gathered around. Clara remained near the back. She could have walked out. She almost did. Instead, she stayed. Not for Michael. For herself. She refused to let anyone rewrite the story of why she left. Michael smiled broadly. "This year is only the beginning." More applause. "My next promotion is closer than ever." Vanessa beamed. "My company has incredible opportunities ahead," Michael continued, "especially if our partnership with Callaway House Group comes together." Several investors nodded with interest. "We're very optimistic," one of them said. Michael laughed confidently. "So am I." Clara lowered her eyes for just a moment. He still had no idea whose approval that partnership actually required. Not one person at the table noticed the faint smile exchanged between Grant and the restaurant's finance director. Neither spoke. Neither needed to. The owner had heard everything. Michael finished his toast and raised his glass toward Vanessa. "To people who believe in my future." Vanessa clinked her glass against his. Clara's remained untouched. Elaine glanced back at Clara with open disappointment. "You could at least pretend to be supportive. I have been supportive for years." Elaine sighed. Support isn't enough if you hold someone back. Clara looked around the private dining room. Every flower arrangement, every light fixture, every custom wine cabinet. She remembered approving each renovation months before. She remembered rejecting cheaper materials because guests deserved better. Michael admired the room often. He had never once asked who built the company behind it. His assumptions had done all the work for him. A server approached Clara quietly. "Mrs. Reeves." She turned. The young woman kept her voice low. The accounting office called. Grant immediately stepped closer, shielding the brief conversation from curious guests. "The revised event contract has been uploaded," the server whispered. "Corporate legal requested confirmation that all guest interactions after 8:30 be preserved in the service log." Clara understood exactly what that meant. Every unusual request, every seating dispute, every public incident, every instruction from Michael or Vanessa. Everything was being documented according to company policy. She gave one small nod. "Thank you." The server left without another word. Michael noticed only that an employee had spoken respectfully to his wife. He frowned. "What was that about?" Oh, Clara answered calmly. "Just routine business." He laughed. "What business could you possibly have here?" Before she could answer, Vanessa slipped her hand lightly onto Michael's arm. "The candles are ready." He looked away from Clara immediately. "Right." Together they walked toward the cake. The gesture lasted only seconds. Long enough. Guests saw it. So did Clara. Grant quietly opened his tablet. Another note entered the incident log. Physical contact between Mr. Reeves and Miss Vale observed during contracted private event. Time recorded. Witnesses present. Clara felt the last fragile thread of hope inside her finally disappear. There would be no difficult conversation after the party. No apology. No misunderstanding to untangle. Only decisions. Her phone vibrated inside her purse. She stepped away from the crowd before looking at the screen. It was a secure message from Mara Lewis. Board review confirmed for Monday morning. Final partnership authority requires your attendance in person. Please do not disclose your ownership before then. Clara locked the screen. Across the room, Michael laughed as Vanessa helped him cut the first slice of birthday cake. He celebrated a future he believed was already his. He never realized that the woman standing quietly near the doorway would decide on Monday whether that future survived at all. Monday morning arrived with cold rain and quieter thoughts than Clara expected. She had slept only a few hours, yet she felt strangely steady. The hurt from Michael's birthday had settled into something firmer. It was no longer confusion. It was certainty. Her driver left her a block away from Callaway House Group headquarters, just as she had requested. She preferred entering the building through the executive entrance, without attracting unnecessary attention. The board meeting was confidential until the partnership decision became public. Inside, the receptionist stood the moment Clara stepped through the doors. "Good morning, Ms. Callaway." Several employees nearby looked up respectfully. "Good morning," Clara replied. No one called her Mrs. Reeves here. No one questioned whether she belonged. Grant joined her moments later carrying a leather folder. "The board members have already reviewed the compliance report," he said quietly, as they walked toward the private elevator. "They've also received legal's incident documentation from Saturday." Clara nodded. "And Michael?" "He's downstairs with representatives from his firm. They believe today's meeting is the final presentation." "He still doesn't know." Grant gave a small shake of his head. "No. The agenda only lists the majority owner as chair." She took a slow breath before stepping into the elevator. There was still time to stop everything. She could postpone the vote. She could delegate authority. Instead, she chose to see the process through. Not because she wanted revenge, because leadership required consistency even when business became painfully personal. Downstairs, Michael adjusted his tie while Vanessa reviewed the presentation slides. This is our chance, Vanessa whispered. Once this partnership is signed, everyone at the office will know your promotion material. Michael smiled confidently. They'll love the proposal. One of Callaway House Group's assistants approached. Mr. Reeves. The board will receive your presentation shortly. Please wait in conference room 3. Can I meet the owner before we begin? Michael asked. I'm afraid today's schedule is fixed. Vanessa leaned closer after the assistant left. They're playing executive games. Michael laughed. Doesn't matter. Whoever owns this company will care about numbers. Neither of them noticed the framed photographs lining the executive hallway. Several featured Clara at ribbon-cutting ceremonies and charity galas under her maiden name. Neither stopped long enough to read the engraved captions. In the boardroom upstairs, directors settled into their seats. Mara Lewis placed several legal binders beside Clara. The conflict of interest review is complete, the attorney said quietly. And the board unanimously agreed your marriage alone does not require recusal. However, Mr. Reeves's documented conduct toward company personnel and contractual obligations remains relevant to today's evaluation. Clara appreciated the distinction. The decision would never be based on a failed marriage. It would be based on business ethics. That mattered. She signed several authorization pages, approving the meeting agenda. One director looked toward her. Are you prepared to proceed? Yes. No changes, no changes. Meanwhile, Michael began presenting to a preliminary review committee. He spoke with confidence. His marketing strategy was polished. His financial projections were ambitious. He even praised Callaway House Group's reputation for discretion, premium service, and long-term client relationships. If selected, he concluded our firm will represent your brand with the same values you've built over decades. Several committee members took notes without revealing their reactions. One finally asked, how would your company respond if a senior representative created reputational concerns during a client event? Michael answered without hesitation. We expect professionalism from every employee, and if that employee personally violated company standards, we would investigate, regardless of position. Absolutely. The committee thanked him. Vanessa smiled confidently as they left the room. I think that went perfectly. Michael agreed. Outside the conference room, Grant crossed the hallway carrying the incident file. Michael recognized him immediately. Hey, he called. You're the manager from Saturday. Grant stopped politely. Good morning. I never got your name. Grant Ellis. Michael smiled. I hope there weren't any hard feelings. Birthday parties get emotional. Grant maintained the same professional expression. Our responsibility is simply to document events accurately. Michael chuckled. I appreciate professionalism. So do we. Grant continued walking without another word. For reasons he couldn't explain, Michael felt oddly unsettled. Minutes later, an executive assistant entered the waiting area. Mr. Reeves, he stood. The chair and full board are ready to receive your final presentation. Vanessa reached for her tablet. The assistant stopped her gently. I'm sorry. Only authorized presenters may enter. I've worked on this proposal for months, Vanessa protested. I'm aware. Board policy still limits attendance. Michael squeezed Vanessa's hand. I'll handle it. She smiled. You've got this. He followed the assistant through a pair of heavy walnut doors. The room was larger than he expected. Directors lined both sides of a long, polished table. Legal counsel occupied one corner, financial officers another. At the far end sat a single figure with her back partially turned toward the entrance. The chair had not yet looked up from the meeting documents. The assistant closed the doors behind him. Then, in a calm, professional voice, she announced, Mr. Reeves has arrived, Miss Callaway. The divorce was never decided in a single afternoon. Over the following weeks, attorneys exchanged financial records, bank statements, and sworn disclosures. Every transfer Michael had made into the private account was traced. The money he had used to impress Vanessa became part of the settlement discussions not because Clara wanted revenge, but because the records mattered. The post-nuptial agreement he had signed years earlier protected Calloway House Group exactly as Mara Lewis had promised. Michael finally understood that the document he had barely read had quietly preserved everything Clara had built before he ever believed it was worth anything. Vanessa disappeared long before the legal process ended. Once Michael lost the partnership, and the promotion attached to it, her confidence faded with remarkable speed. She stopped returning his calls and accepted a position with another company in another city. There was no dramatic farewell. She simply walked toward the next opportunity, leaving Michael alone with the consequences of choices he had called ambition. Elaine refused to accept the outcome. She asked Clara to meet one final time at a quiet cafe. "You destroyed my son's future," she said. Clara remained calm. "No," she answered. Michael destroyed it the moment he believed respect depended on someone's bank account. Elaine opened her mouth to argue, but Clara gently raised a hand. "I won't discuss the marriage anymore. The legal process is almost over, and my boundary is simple. I wish him well, but I won't return." For the first time, Elaine had no reply. The divorce settlement concluded without spectacle. Clara kept the company she had founded her ownership and her reputation. Michael kept his career, though at a lower position after the failed partnership and internal review. He was not ruined. He simply had to rebuild a life without the opportunities he had thrown away. One afternoon, several months later, Clara stood outside a newly restored flagship venue in downtown Chicago. Above the entrance, polished brass letters reflected the afternoon sun. Calloway House. Clara Calloway. No hidden name. No disguise. Just the truth. That evening, she hosted a private dinner for the managers, chefs, servers, and employees who had remained loyal through every difficult week. Grant raised a quiet toast to integrity. No reporters attended. No investors made speeches. The room was filled instead with laughter that asked nothing from her except that she enjoy it. As the guests began leaving, Clara's phone vibrated. A single message appeared. "Michael, I'm sorry. I finally realize I never knew who you really were. I don't expect another chance. I only hope you find happiness." She read every word. Then she locked the screen without replying. Some apologies deserved to be heard. Not all of them deserved an answer. Before leaving, Clara walked back to the entrance. She looked once more at the sign carrying her own name. For years, she had hidden behind silence because she believed love should exist without wealth getting in the way. In the end, she learned that someone who measured people by status would never have recognized her true worth, no matter how much she revealed. She turned off the lights, locked the front door beneath her own name, and walked into the evening with nothing left to prove. If Clara's choice resonated with you, share your thoughts in the comments. And if you enjoy stories about dignity, second chances, and hidden strength, we'd love to have you join us for the next one.